Hey there, it's Mary Sheila, and I want to talk about the immune system and simple nutritional ways to boost your immune system. We're all thinking about that lately, and we just want to make sure that we've got good strategies, and you can absolutely protect and support your immune system with the foods that you're eating. And a big part of immune health really has a lot to do with liver health as well. So I want to share with you a really simple soup. It's a vegetable soup that you can easily make with whatever you have on hand in your kitchen, and it's so good for the immune system, which is really like your waterways in the body, right? Your lymphatic system. It's also really good for the liver. And so it's very protective. So what I have is I actually bought this nice portobello mushroom. Now, all mushrooms have medicinal qualities, and most of them have real good immune boosting qualities. What I'm going to do with this mushroom first is just go into the gills and just take a little bit of those gills off. And just to have, I don't really know why I'm doing this, to be honest with you. I think it's just like a chef thing that I learned. But anyways, I'm just taking the gills off. And the thing about mushrooms is they have the same kind of fiber that like an insect or a crab or a shellfish has. So it's actually, it's hard to actually get the medicine that's embedded in that fiber unless you cook them. So if you're going for mushrooms and you're trying to get the medicine, the immune boosting qualities, you're gonna wanna cook them. So with this soup in particular, I'm actually gonna blend it. And what I love about blending a soup is that it's much easier to make because I'm not so worried about small bite size, same size that I have for everything. I'm just gonna rough chop it, and I'm actually gonna put these mushrooms in first without any oil. I call that a dry saute. And it just actually it allows the mushrooms to start releasing its water, and it helps them start to break down. And I want to, while I'm teaching and showing this recipe, I also want to talk a little bit about a few ways you can absolutely support your immune system. And one of those ways is with hydration, okay? Hydration is key. And that would be, in the form of pure water. And by the way, this is a leek, and leeks are really high in sulfur. They're really good. They're really good for the liver and for the immune system. And this leek actually has a bunch of water in it. So I'm just gonna again rough chop my leeks. But hydration is key, and soup is a great way to get you there. But this is what I want to say about hydration, and I want to tie it into the second tip, which is when you're drinking water, you want to drink water away from your meals, not when you're eating. A lot of people, they think about drinking water when they are eating. They sit down to a meal, and then they sit down with a glass of water or something cold or ice water. You don't want to drink a whole lot of water with your meals because you're going to dilute your stomach acid. And that is essentially like the pot that cooks your food. And here's the thing about our stomach acid. It is a part of the immune system. It's intricately tied to the immune system. So your immune system is like the stomach is a really strong part of the immune system. It can kill things and pathogens in their tracks. So if we are drinking a ton of water when we're eating a meal, we're diluting that strong acid that is part of our immune defense. So we want to drink in between meals, and that actually really helps with digestion. It helps with assimilation. It especially helps with breaking down our proteins. A big part of digestion of proteins happens in the stomach. So if your juices are all diluted, guess what? You're probably not going to break as much of it down. And that can lead to allergies, right? So drink your water in between meals, and then thinking about boosting the immune system and boosting your stomach fire, which is a big part of the immune system, is spices. Spices are key. So I happen to have some ginger here, and I'll show you a little ginger trick. What you do with your ginger is you take a spoon and you just peel the skin. And some people say, why do you even peel the skin? And you know what, you actually don't have to. But a lot of times we do, maybe for taste or texture. So if you just peel, I'm not even showing you, sorry. If you just peel the ginger, you don't lose as much real estate, right? So I halfway peeled this, I'll peel the rest of the way. Ginger boosts stomach fire. It helps us to create that good mucosal layer. It's very digestive, and it's also very anti-inflammatory. So many of us are all in love with turmeric lately. Well, ginger and turmeric are cousins. They're very closely related. They have similar actions, different flavor. So I'm actually using kind of a lot because I really love ginger, but I'm gonna pop that in there. No oil yet, so I've just got leeks and mushrooms and ginger. I've got a couple celery sticks. So what I did is I just said, what do I have in my refrigerator? And that's what I'm using. I'm not getting super fancy. I didn't go to the store especially. I just said, what do I have in my fridge so I can make a nice soup? And I'm gonna blend this soup up. And then the secret to making just a simple soup is how I put it in my bowl and what I put it in my bowl with. So I've been making this soup this week, and I've been putting in my bowl a little bit of miso. And then I've also been putting in my bowl a little bit of sauerkraut. And that adds a lot of flavor. And then I've also been throwing some greens in right at the end. So I've got my first veggies going. I also have a fennel bulb. I love fennel, and it's real cooling. So it's a great spring, you know, we're coming into spring, great spring vegetable. It's sweet, it's yummy, and I'll probably just use half of it in my soup because I might roast the other half. Fennel always has like a little bit of the stem down here in the center, so I could cook it all, but I'm just gonna take that little stem out. And I'm just gonna, again, since I'm gonna blend this soup, I am just going to chop it. And I could go as far up on this as I want. I can use all of it. I don't need to waste any of it. So there, I've got my fennel. I'm gonna pop that into my soup. And I am just gonna put a little bit of ghee in there now. So ghee is clarified butter. You make it by warming up the butter and allowing the solid milk fats and proteins to sort of separate, and you're really just left with the fat. And it's a nice way to go when making a soup. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of that in here, and you could probably hear it. I also have a little bit of some cauliflower. So again, I'm just gonna add a little bit in here. I'm not gonna use it all because I'm probably gonna maybe roast some cauliflower and fennel together because I really love doing that. So I'm just put a little cauliflower. Cauliflower's in the Boracic family, so it's really a great ally for liver detoxification. It's high in sulfur, so that helps with sulfation pathways. And it's also, it's great at helping the body to detoxify hormones. So excess estrogens, which is something both men and women need to actually be concerned about or just paying attention to. So I also found this yesterday in the market. This is burdock. I love burdock. It's a very amazing blood cleanser. So again, very detoxifying, very immune supportive. And so look at how long this root is. It's a really long root. And the burdock seeds are actually how Velcro got invented, because it's got the little, you know, hitchhiker seeds that attach onto you, which is pretty cool. And, you know, for this one, I gave this a rinse. I'm actually not going to peel it, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grate it, just because it's pretty a strong flavor. I'm just gonna grate it right over my, my soup. And once these guys all saute up for a little bit, and I could have done a similar thing with my ginger, So I'm going to, and burdoc's pretty strong. Again, a really good blood purifier. So I've got mushrooms, which are good for the immune system. I've got celery, fennel, cauliflower, burdock, ginger, just like what was in my refrigerator. Throw it in there. It's a great way to use things up. Throw it in there, and it's going to saute for a few minutes. And then the other added ingredient, which is another way to really boost your immune system, is broth. So this is a beautiful broth that I made earlier this week. And it's a chicken broth. You can also do a vegetable mineral broth. You can do any kind of broth that you do. And look at how rich this is. So I usually put in my broth, I put whatever spices I want to use. It's another way to use my spices. And spices are so immune supportive because they get all our juices going. And our juices are not only there to help us break down our food, but they're also there to lend immune support. They're like helping us to move things along so things don't sit. And that's why sometimes when things are too bitter, you're going to create more, sometimes it can give you an upset stomach if you eat something that's too bitter, because bitter in nature is toxic and it gets all of our juices going. That's why you have bitters before you eat. In fact, when women are pregnant and they have aversions to food, especially to green bitter foods, it's part of the body's mechanism of survival and protection of the offspring to say, we don't want that because that might be poisonous, and we're trying to protect during this reproductive time. So you can put so many things in here. I put seaweed and mushrooms and some, bones from a chicken, and then, like I put some of the rest of the leek here that I had from last week. I could put some burdock. I love putting peppercorns, and then I always put a little something sour. That sour could be a lemon, or that sour could be a little vinegar. So you just want to make your broth. I love having my broth as like a cup of soup in the afternoon, or like a cup of tea. It works for me. I know it might sound weird, but I love it. And I also love doing it, making soup, or if I'm gonna make beans or rice or anything for my family, I use broth, and that way they're getting even more nutrition with it. So that's my way of being like a stealth nutritionist mom, is, infusing things like broth into my cooking. So if, somebody, like a child, walks in and smells the broth and they think it's disgusting, they don't know it's in the food that they're eating, right? Sneaky mamas. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pour my broth in, and then I'm gonna let this cook. I'm actually just gonna put a top on it, and once my vegetables are all softer, so maybe about in half an hour, I'll turn the flame on low. I'm just gonna take my immersion wand, and I'm just gonna pop it into the soup, and I'm just gonna blend it and make it like a creamy soup. And it will look creamy because I used a lot of white vegetables, so it'll be creamy. I don't get it to where it's like baby food. I kind of like it a little bit chunkier. So I'll blend it till I like it. Then I don't have to, put it into a blender and blend it. And sometimes that gets a little, I don't know, it's just messy and a little more dangerous when you're blending hot liquids. You can always let it cool down, but I'll just blend it up to the consistency I like, and then I'll have a nice vegetable soup. And this is, to me, this is so immune supportive. And because all of these vegetables have bitters in them and a lot of sulfur, it's extremely liver supportive. And I think of the liver, which is right here, as your, the liver is truly your, it's like your own inner ocean. Everything goes to the liver to get cleansed. So having a good functioning liver with the foods that we eat and the spices we eat and adequate hydration away from meals is not only going to support the liver, but also supports the immune system, because the liver makes lymph, and the liver and the spleen work very closely together making the lymph, and the lymph is your river of immunity that's moving through the body, checking everything out. And your stomach is a big gateway to the immune system, right? Because food comes into our mouth, and the first place it sits and stays for a couple hours is the stomach. So spices help, bring the stomach in, sort of turn the fire on, right? Kindle the fire, the digestive fire. And then, your, so you just want to make sure you're not drinking all of your liquids with your meal. Like a half a cup, 4 to 6 ounces is probably fine with a meal. But if you're having, a couple glasses, that's where you want to be really careful. I'll tell you one quick little funny story and then I'll close. But I had a client who was having some stomach issues, and one of the things that I asked her was, how's your water intake? And she said, oh, it's great. I'm really good with my water. I drink a lot. So I said, great. And then a little later in our conversation, I asked her what she usually made for dinner. And she said, honey, I make reservations. So I said, oh, okay. Well, where do you like to eat? And she was telling me she likes to eat at Indian food or Chinese food. And I know what I do when I go to Indian and Chinese food. I tend to eat a lot because, you order a few dishes and you fill up your plate. And if you want to fill up your plate more than once, you can do that, right? So, I get that. I know what I have to pay attention to when I eat, in those places where there's multiple choices in front of me. So then she said, and I keep that busboy busy. He probably fills up my glass. I probably have like 45 to 60 ounces of water when I eat. And I said, oh, bingo. That's probably one of the root causes of your digestive issues is all that ice cold water. You are putting out the fire, right? I want to cook this. If I suddenly just threw a bunch of ice in there and turned off the heat, my things are not going to cook and I'm not going to be able to blend, right? And that's kind of what happens in the stomach is everything gets broken down and gets emulsified or broken down, right? And turned into kind of like a chunky soup, a pureed soup, and then it's able to go to the next level. So if we don't create the right conditions for that, then we're not going to have these soft, pliable vegetables that are easier access to digest later on down the digestive tract. And, again, coming back to the immune system, if we are trying to protect the immune system and we suddenly, take out that fire, that is our first line of defense. The stomach is your first line of immune defense. So you want to have a stomach fire that is adequate, that can burn out and kill pathogens when they're coming in. So I know with some of the viruses and things that are, that are around us right now, it might be coming in through different airways, but, everything we do to create a more strong, strong body is, even if we do end up getting sick, we're going to, be able to work through it maybe quicker because we've started out with a stronger beginning, a stronger baseline. So this is my spring veggie immune liver supporting soup, which I should have a better name for because it doesn't really sound as delicious as it is. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you make the soup. And if you do, please leave me a comment. I'd love to, or take a picture and send it to me. I'd love to see what you're making. All right, thanks.